Hello and welcome to Story X Story, the podcast by Maya Mada that dives deep into stories across pop culture, plus gives you advice on creating your own. It's episode 232, and I am your co-host Nigel.
I am Tazziii, content creator and co-host.
And for our behind the story episodes, we like to talk to creative professionals and practitioners across industries to unpack their journey. And today we're going to hear the story behind children's author, speaker, screenwriter, Chitra Soundar. Chitra, how are you doing? And welcome to the show.
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm having a lovely start to the week today with a school visit.
We'll get into that and the joy of speaking for children. Good to unpack like everything that you're working on. I'm sure like all the advice that we're about to get in this episode. So listeners, you can subscribe to Story X Story wherever you get your podcast from, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube as well. You can send us your feedback and questions in a variety of ways. You can chat with us in the MyMatter Studio 77 Discord. You can email us studio77 at mymatter.com, or you can throw your thoughts at us, solicited or otherwise, on social media. We are at MyMatter on Twitter, at MyMatter TV on Instagram and TikTok, and at mymatter.com on Blue Sky, or at mymatter.com on Blue Sky, or at Life of a W Gamer on Instagram and TikTok, and at Tazziii on everything else. You can also check out mymatter.com to get an overview of who we are, what we do, and why we do what we do, and also get our latest manga there as well. So before we get to learn more about our guests, let's update you with the latest from the My Matter universe. We have one more. I said that like I wasn't sure, but yeah, one more convention visit for the year, which is Thought Bubble. So depending on when you're listening to this, I'll either be just about going or have just come back, or it's like a whole different year, and who cares, right? It'll be the next one. So either way, we've got Thought Bubble 2025 on November the 15th and 16th. So I'll be returning to the Harrogate Convention Centre for the event, which is 2 days essentially celebrating indie comics. So I'll be bringing the Maya Mada manga there as well, and also delivering a comics workshop for young creatives aged 10 and up. It'll be the first time we'll be bringing the new manga, Origins Against All Odds, to Thought Bubble. We brought it to some different events over the year, but this will be the first time for Thought Bubble. So looking forward to seeing the reaction and that one family who always comes to my table, or at least for like the past 4 or 5 years, and asks if I've got anything new. So this one be for them, by everyone else, but also for them. The Do I Look Like a Gamer campaign is reaching the end of another year. It's the 4th year of the campaign. We've just done Comic-Con. The Do I Look Like a Gamer campaign is about promoting inclusion and diversity in the video games industry. So it's a yearly initiative. And each year we take a snapshot of 40 players and makers to showcase representation that does exist, even though there's not enough of it. But hopefully that inspires future generations of diverse talent. And then we do a whole bunch of events. So we've done some events. Like I said, we've just been to Comic-Con. We do have an event coming up, an in-person event, which is our Friends and Family Game Design Jam on Saturday, November the 29th. So we'll be at Square Enix London for an event where you can come learn about the fundamentals of game design while making your own tabletop game. Get feedback from us, from games professionals. The Square Enix team will be there, and compete for prizes. It's all fun, but also some prizes. So there's that. But yeah, it's about being in a space where all ages can come, all experience levels, and just get involved in some creativity, some teamwork in a fun environment with plentiful swords and figurines. So there's also that. The event is free, but spaces are limited. So make sure you RSVP as soon as you can, while you can. And then to wrap up the year of the Do I Look Like a Gamer campaign, we have our end of year live stream, next one up, which is on Saturday, the 13th of December. So you'll be able to join us for the end of year summit that brings together industry professionals, emerging talent from around the world to discuss what everyone's working on, how the year's been, and the future of the video games industry and wider culture. So we'll have a bunch of things, showcases, roundtable discussions. So it's all taking place from 1 p.m. GMT. And yeah, stay tuned for news on how you can get involved in next year's campaign as well. Got some interesting plans in the works. So looking forward to sharing that after we get done with these events. We also got our Studio 77 activities. It's our digital platform on Twitch and YouTube, live streaming different shows. Each month you can enjoy different types of shows. So it depends what you're into. We've got the Studio 77 report with me and Tazziii talking about all the things going on in the My Amanda universe. We've got a new format of the show coming up. Stay tuned for that. Casual conversations with comic creators, where I speak to a different comic creator each month, and games night. So we get together and play games with our community. We just had Pool 2, which was a great game that we had a really cool scenario at the very end. Like, it was all tied at the very last game at the very end of the live stream. So we're going to clip that and use that somewhere. Drama. So make sure you're following us on Twitch and YouTube as well, so you can catch each show when it goes live. And if you're a young aspiring creative professional or you know one, then check out the My Matter Showrunners Work Experience Program. We are creating opportunities for young people aged 16 and up to work with our team across comic production, events, and content creation. And we've had a bunch of people join us for this run of events that we are on. And yeah, a lot of people getting their first taste of like sort of professional work, which is interesting. People that have been with us before wanting to come back again. Yeah, it's all good experience. You can email us showrunners@myamanda.com to find out more. And with all that, you're now caught up. So let's go behind the story with today's guest. We're speaking to Chitra, who is an author and has published over 60 children's books. Her book series, Nikhil and Jay, has also been adapted to an animated sitcom for CBeebies. Chitra's stories are inspired by folk tales from India, Hindu mythology, and her own experience traveling the world. And when Chitra isn't writing, as she's just mentioned earlier, she spends time touring the country to deliver exciting writing workshops to schools and literacy festivals. So, Chitra, listeners of the podcast already know, those who follow My Matter will know that creativity is very important to us. But for our first question, what does creativity mean to you?
It's being me, it's doing something that's unique to me and that's something special to me, using my imagination. And whatever I do, I have to do it my way. Even when I was working in corporate, even a report I submit will have something that only I can do inside that. But mostly nowadays, because I write mostly, creativity is writing stories that are in my brain onto the page, but also trying all sorts of new things and going, oh, I love to read that, so I want to write that. So trying different things, all of that is creativity to me.
Yeah, it's definitely that unique take on just anything that you do. I like that approach. So I think we're gonna get into Nikhil and Jay in a bit more detail, but I did want to start with just like a kind of just a reaction, because it is fairly recent, although it came out towards the end of last year, so it's been, I think, just over a year right since it's out. And is that your first animated show, or have you done others?
This is the first one where I've created, and it's the first 11 minute. I've written for a couple of episodes of other things which came out roughly around the same time. So I wrote for something for Moonbug, and I've done some audio, but this is the first big one, which is my show, my books, me fully being involved in the whole thing. So yeah, that's the first
Yeah.
one.
And how does that feel with some like distance from the release and everything being out publicly and viewed and seen and critiqued? Like, how does it feel to have like say your show?
It's always surreal because I know the moment when I knew I wanted to make TV with it, to actually making it as an
Mm.
outsider who came into the industry. So I'm always surprised how it actually even happened. So many things had to align, and so many things that could go wrong actually went wrong as well. So that's one part of it. From a creator perspective, I'm like, oh my god, this actually happened. But also from having created it, and for people to, especially people from South Asian backgrounds, to come and tell me how much it means to them, it's almost like it's out of my hands. And I've made this rainbow in the sky, and people are watching it, and I have no control over it anymore. And they like it, they like it. We're not a car show, we're not Disney, we're not magic, right? We are a real family kind of story. So it's interesting how different people are receiving it. I went to there's a hospital school in Evelina Hospital, Children's Hospital, and I go
Mm.
to that school at least twice a year. And I went to this bed when the hospital teacher introduced me as the author of Nikhil and Jay. She showed the books to the kid, and the kid broke out into the theme song. And this is a child who's undergoing dialysis. He's only 9 years old and
Wow.
was so delighted and had a list of springboards for new episodes for me.
Oh, I was pitching.
Yeah, it was like, oh my God, you have to do this story and this story and this story. And they didn't even know that I was coming when I turned up. It was like that. So that's all makes it feel like worthwhile, right? All the struggle.
That's really cool. That's really cool. I like to hear that. So, okay, like I said, we'll dig into that a bit more. But I wanted to know about like your journey, and in some ways, almost like your literal journey, because you grew up in India, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, can you tell us like your creative upbringing there, and how you found your way to the UK and into writing?
Yeah, we grew up in a family where everybody told stories, oral storytelling. So my grandparents will tell stories, especially my dad's mom, and we lived in a joint family, so we were all in the same house. So my grandma, I grew up literally learning stories from her. And my mom didn't know any of the epics or folk tales, but will make up her own story. And that's kind of caught on with us because we all in our family, everybody except my dad, everybody will make up a story on the spot. And when I was 7, I won my school's oral storytelling competition because I had no fear of telling a story because that's what we did in the house all the time. And my mom is a big amateur playwright and performer. And even though culture, like they were a small group and they used to put up plays, and she started creating plays for us. So the summer holidays will be in the living room practicing. But she's an improv playwright, so she won't write it down. She'll just tell us the story, what the scenes are, and we have to remember the dialogue. So we were on stage pretty much from when we were 10 until we were 16, doing all of those things. And all those times I wrote a lot of poetry. I wrote nonfiction, so I wrote a lot of essays. Essays are a big thing in India, and short stories are a big thing in India. And I wrote a lot of poetry and essays. And then life took over, school and all of that, and I never did anything with that for a long time
Mm.
until I moved in 2000, no, in 99 to Singapore for work. So I was working in India and then I moved to Singapore for work. And suddenly I had the weekends off, which doesn't happen in India. In India, you work 6 days or 5.5 days, depending on which week it is. And then the rest of the time, if you live with your parents, you have to do chores and everything. So I hardly have time for yourself. So suddenly now I had like 2 days. And I said, what am I going to do with these 2 days? The nerd being I am, I decided I'm going to actually now write stuff that I always wanted to write. I wrote everything under the sun. I was like, oh, I can do that. I can do that. I can do that. So I was published in the Straits Times, which is the Singapore's national newspaper. I was published in journals across South Pacific, South Asia and Asia Pacific. I sent out stories to children's magazines in America and got published. And I thought, this is all too much. I've got only like 2 days in a week to work on stories. And what am I going to do? Like, do I really want to be like somebody who writes in newspapers? And then I said, okay, now what do I want to do is to tell stories that I grew up with. And I want to write stories like that. And then that meant it was children's stories. And that's kind of then I set my direction towards that. That's how I
Mm.
got started. And then I came to the UK 2006. My job transferred me here. So I had a full time job until 2018. And I kept writing. I kept writing throughout. I was published in Singapore, and then I came here, and I started getting published here slowly, very slowly, but eventually I got published here as well.
Right. That's like a very informal education in storytelling. So it's not necessarily like you studied that at school. It's just you did it, and it was like family support and environment.
Yeah, I think it was more the culture of telling stories, and I
Mm,
think I'm sure you're familiar. If you have very strong grandparent connections and stuff, and they are willing to tell stories,
mm,
and I think they basically used it as a mechanism to get chores done. So we'll all be doing like these joint things in the summer. We have 3 mango trees, so we pickle the mangoes. That means every mango, all the mangoes have to be washed and the stems cut off and put in salt water, all of that. So they just used to give us work, and while we were working, they'll tell us stories. But eventually, when I came to the UK, I retrained professionally as an oral storyteller as well. This is how I spend my vacation time from my
vacation.
job, is go and do courses.
Yeah. You're like, I have these weekends free now. What do I do? Write. I'm gonna write and tell stories. No, that's cool. I think because it's interesting. I was thinking about, like I said, we do like this work experience program and just some workshops, and just I'm observing like young people and this. Not to do the problem with this generation, but the problem with just this generation is like just ability to tell stories. I'm just realizing that as you're talking, and it all almost seems like because when you think tell a story, your mind can go like academic, but what you're describing is just like cultural and just that ability, like honing that ability to tell an I imagine interesting. I wasn't there, but I imagine they're interesting stories. But just knowing what to focus on, what the moments, the twists, the turns, how to captivate people. And I feel that's an underrated skill outside of being a literal storyteller. Just being able to communicate.
That's one of the things I do in schools is teach oral storytelling. And
Mm,
it is important because it helps you in your corporate job, because you can explain a problem in a way that people will
yeah,
understand what it is,
exactly.
and you know when the dramatic pause needs to be, right? And also a lot of this, when you learn oral storytelling, in fact, my books, I don't read my books in school, I tell the story from the book, so it won't be for word. So the skill is to remember the story's spine, and then be able to tell it to different groups of people in different forms and shapes. So I can tell the same story to kids, and I can tell the same story to adults. And when you do it with adults, there are more things that relate to them in the descriptions or in the jokes that you put in. And then when you tell to children, it's more the sounds and the physical comedy. So you know how to take the
Mm,
same story and bend it the way you want to do, tell to different people. And like you said, know how to keep their interest. Keep use the use of voice as a tool. Like today, I was telling a story, and I always like the whisper is such a great tool when you tell a story, because then they all go so
lean
quiet
in. Yeah.
that they want to listen in what's going to happen next, and all the sounds and everything. Yeah, it is a. I don't think schools are teaching enough. So whenever I go into schools, I tell class teachers, have a storytelling competition. Let children learn how to come and do public speaking in front of everybody, because once the fear is out, it's out,
Mm.
and you'll be able to talk to anybody.
Yeah, no, it's a good idea. Good idea. And it sounds like a lot of your like creativity and the direction you've gone has come from family. So I imagine in terms of what you do now, you don't have a hard time explaining what you do.
Yeah, well, yeah, when I was in my corporate job, that was hard to explain what I did.
All right.
Uh, because it's like, I do this. Okay, as long as you're making like a shed load of money, no problem. Do whatever. But now, yeah, now they understand the books. They can actually feel the books, and my mom will tell everybody and anybody. We walked into Foyles one day, and she found we went to see if my books were there, and they had it. And she started telling everybody in that part of the shop that I am the author. I'm like, Mom, please, please don't. They kind of get it.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's not hard. And even with TV, they kind of understand, because I think these are professions that people can understand, I think.
Standards, yeah. Okay. Yeah. I feel like any successful creative has to go through that stage of like parents embarrassing you saying, yeah, my child did this. Look at everyone. So that's good. That's good. And just thinking about when you were starting out and when you described some of that journey, was there any good advice that you can recall? Like what was the best advice that someone else gave to you when you were starting out, and did you follow it?
You never follow. So I'll send you a link for a Substack I wrote about. I wish, when I knew this when I was a beginning writer. I think the good advice people always give you, you don't get to follow because you're an impatient to get published, right? And
Mm.
what you have to do is to actually build the craft. And I did it by writing a lot, but I also was submitting a lot, which I shouldn't have done. I should have taken the time to hone it, and so that I didn't get like thousands of rejections come back.
Oh,
If
what
I
did
weren't
that put you off for?
yeah, if I weren't as persevering as I am, I probably would have given up with a number of people. I remember I was in Singapore when I sent a submission into the UK, and this UK editor, who I still know him, actually emailed back saying, "Why not just stick to writing in your own language? Why are you sending this to
Ooh,
me?" I was like,
wow.
"Ouch." That was a bit uncalled for.
Yeah. That, okay.
but
Okay.
But I think a lot of people think because we all can read and write the language that we're writing in, we can actually write something that other people will want to read. But we have to understand that we have to build the craft just like any other skill set. If I want to learn to play the violin, I have to learn the basics. I have to practice before I go and have a concert. So it's that which took me really a long time to understand that I'm supposed to just focus on the writing and not on the submitting part of it.
But in submissions, weren't you getting better, even with the rejections?
I was getting better, and because I was writing a lot, and then I found a local publisher in Singapore who who were publishing school magazines, and this was a thing before. Lots of magazines go into schools and they use in schools, and they gave me a regular column, two regular columns, one fiction and one non-fiction. And I then wrote every week for that column. So then I got better and better and better by actually doing the work. And that always helps. But I know I teach a lot of new writers, regardless of whether they're young or old. And a lot of them, they write one story, and the first thing they want to know is how to get an agent. I said, no, you have to go and write hundreds of stories before you actually want to go and find an agent. So that would I would say, if you want to learn anything, put the hours in. There are literally no shortcuts.
Yeah, that feels true. uh,
I'm sure that's the same in whether you're drawing a comic book, learning the things that come with it, the rules, those kind of
yeah,
things.
it really is, and I feel even comics are just like business because when we started, and arguably now, but just a limited knowledge of business, and it's something where on the surface, like say if you start a business, you I don't know, you register, you do a website, and you think, oh, I've got a business, but it's actually there's like behaviors and mindsets, and obviously like actions and things, sustained actions to build and grow, and it's like I think the same with like a craft. There's you can write something in that Mariah, but there's like a sustained like actions, sustained mindset, like creative way of thinking that you have to do and build and hone, and then yeah, then you've got it eventually. So that definitely makes sense. So I mean, by this point, like I mentioned earlier, you published a lot of books, 60 and counting. Do you remember your first one? And on that similar note, when you made your first book, did you think you made it as a writer? If not, at what point did you? think that.
Yeah. So my first book got published in Singapore and was a really funny story. I found this publisher who eventually I worked with for quite a long time. And they asked me to retell some of the folk tales from India. They were a cultural publisher, so they published a lot of folk tales. And they said, "You write the Indian folk tales?" And I said, "Great, I'll do that." And I asked them how many stories. They said, "We need 30 stories." I said, "Great."
Mm.
They asked me, "How long do you want?" And I had never written a book before. I had never actually had a deadline or an editor or anything before this. So, and I was working full time. And I basically told them 30 stories. I'll send it to you in 30 days. And then I realized how
Yeah, yeah.
completely silly of me to do that. But then what happened was I am a stickler for deadlines. I've never missed a deadline in my corporate life or in my writing life.
Oh, wow.
So I spend every waking weekend from 6 o'clock in the morning till lunchtime, and then I'll have lunch and I'll continue writing because I wanted to write the first draft within 2 weeks so then I can revise it in the next 2 weeks. So it's
Mm.
even a shorter timeline than 1 month. And then I used to then print them out and take them on the tube on the metro when I go to work to edit them, and then I'll bring them back and then work in the night. And I handed it over. They were very happy with it. It was fantastic. I was like, great. And then they asked me to do a non-fiction book. And I said, yes, I've made it. I've now published 2 books. So, very, very silly of me. I actually quit my day job, which I
After
needed
two
a
books.
yeah, I needed a visa to stay in Singapore. So quitting means I'm going
Oh,
back to India, right?
yeah.
So I quit my day job and I went back to India and I realized, what am I doing? Because the minute I went back to India, they started looking for a husband. I'm like, no, this is not what this is completely taken a wrong turn. And then I applied for another job in Singapore and I got that job and I came back again. So
Take two.
I've been, yeah, take two. And that one, in that job, I was there for 16 years and they were really lovely about my writing as well.
Right.
But yeah,
Okay.
so yeah, it can be, it can feel like you have, oh, you've done it and you can do this over and over again and people are going to pay you money for it. But it is, to be honest, I'm not getting paid as much as I was getting paid in my corporate job, but
Mm.
I am making a living on writing is a blessing by itself.
Mm.
So
Nice. That's a funny, uh, funny turn of events. All right, and then you have Nikhil and Jay as a book series. So it started as a book series, and then going into animation. So from what I've seen and read, it felt like a book that like the inspiration comes close to home. Like, where did that story first come about?
So, my publisher, who published one of my picture books, they were looking for me to write some young chapter books. This is for children who are leaving behind picture books, which they are read to and want to independently read stories. And they're called newly independent readers. So they said short stories per book. And they wanted to have, but she wanted them to be set in the UK. And I said, great. I know exactly what to do because that time this was, now my older nephew was 6 years old. My younger was 2.5, 3. And they are dual heritage. So the mom, like me, is from India and their dad is from Stoke-on-Trent in Manchester. And I said, I know what to do. I want to write stories for these boys who don't have any books with dual heritage in them, especially an Indian, English dual heritage. So I want to write stories for them. And she said, great. So I wrote, they always do like 2 books together. So I wrote 8 stories. But when I started writing the stories, I realized they were very episodic, right? There are 4 stories and all a fully contained story. And I thought, oh, this will make great TV. And I always had ambitions eventually to go into TV. So I retained my TV rights.
Oh, wow.
Um,
Okay.
and then I got the book. So the book was not even out when I started on the TV journey for those. So the books were still in production. People were still Sufia was still illustrating it when I started looking at the TV opportunity for that.
Okay, because I've seen a lot of times where you have something and then someone goes, "Oh, let's take this into TV," but this is all like almost as one, just making the books and then going for animation.
Yeah, and also because a lot of the times, and in the UK especially, publishers buy the TV rights and they buy pretty much all the rights, unless you're clever enough to say, no, thank you, I'm not giving you the following rights.
Mm.
So they will grab as much as they want. So they will always take rights. And a lot of the TV series that you have seen being made, books to TV, is where TV producers have gone to the publishers to buy the rights,
Mm.
and the publishers will then give a percentage cut to the author from that money, and the author has pretty much no say in whether that can happen or not, whether that sale is legitimate or not for them, whether they like it or not. They can't do anything about it. So my advice is always retain your TV rights if you have TV ambitions. I did it after I finished the stories while they were illustrating the books. I had the PDF of the stories without the illustrations going in yet, and I started putting together a pitch for it. And then that's kind of how I started. And it was almost simultaneous, but obviously TV takes longer than the book coming out. Yeah.
Yeah, and like this is I mean actually this is a self-serving question because I'm also interested in animation, but I also feel like a lot of people watching animation don't appreciate, I mean, one, don't appreciate the amount of effort it takes to making it. Once something's been greenlit and agreed and teams in place to like to make it, but then also don't appreciate to bring it to that point in the first place, the amount of work it
Mhm.
takes. So you mentioned like, you put together a pitch. Like, what does it take to pitch an animation? Like, who are you talking to and what are you showing them, especially when the book isn't finished?
Yeah, so first thing I did was when I knew I wanted to do this, I went to the BBC commissioning day. This was during COVID, so it was all on Zoom. So I listened to everybody talk and I took down notes, I took down the names, and then the pitch was basically, this is the story of this dual heritage family. These are the characters in the stories in the books, because I know I've written the first 8 stories, so I know what the characters are. And then but obviously the artwork was not ready yet, and I didn't want to use the artwork from the books. That's a completely a different minefield altogether. So I used photographs with my sister's permission, some of the family photographs of the dual heritage family. We didn't use the kids' photos. We just used the family photos of how we were very close as a dual heritage family. And then I had a few slides on that BBC did not have an Asian protagonist in preschool for the last 25 years kind of stats. Then I had a page on South Asians in TV. What am I bringing to the table? Why is this unique? That kind of things. And then about me working with kids this age group, that I understand this age group, that kind of justification of why I am the right person to tell the story. So I had all of those in a pitch and I sent it to the commissioning team, which after the commissioning briefing, I went and checked their websites, got their email addresses, and they're quite open. BBC is very open with all the names and
Mm.
details on their website. So I sent an email to them, and they got back to me to say, yes, we like the idea. Can we see the book? Then I sent them the PDF saying, the full book is not ready yet. These are the stories, which is technically what you want. So they went away to read the stories. In the meantime, I was doing the same with producers. So I called up King or emailed King Banana, which is Lottie at that time, and said, I want to write on Yakadi, which is their show on CBeebies, because I had some ideas for how to make it more inclusive. And they came back with, no, we write Yakadi ourselves. We don't need an external writer. But I've seen your website. do you have any books that we can develop together? And then
Right.
I said, hey, I have pitched this. I'm pitching this to the BBC. Here it is. Do you want to take a look and read it? So she was reading it at the same time as BBC was reading it. And then BBC asked for a meeting. At the same time, Lottie was saying, yeah, we are interested. Don't give it to anybody else yet. I'll come back to you. And then I had a meeting with 4 producers from the commissioning team. And then they said, we really like it. We think the format will work. And yes, as you said, and they basically said, yes, we accept that we haven't done a South Asian show and that is a gap in the market that you have rightly identified. And they said, do you have a producer? And I said, yes, King Banana seemed to be interested. And they said, wow, we love King Banana, because King Banana's producer, Joel Williness, was in the call. And he said, we love
Right.
King Banana. We will get in touch with them. So then they spoke to Lottie, and then that was like March, April. And during that CMC, again, a COVID Zoom CMC. So by
Mm.
July, they gave us development funding to write the script and develop the visuals.
Right. Wow. That feels like a lot of effort with a lot of different people who aren't necessarily the ones that are going to do the animation. So it's almost like there's a whole journey before even the journey of animation. But that's really interesting. And did you? Because what I'm also hearing is like you had something that wasn't finished, and you went to pitch that. Is that typical? Or do you typically have everything together, like visuals and everything, before you go and pitch?
Yes and no. So, if it is a book and if it is a topic they like, I think they are open to however early you come to them. If it is something that is not IP based, so something that is not there somewhere else for them to look at, or something to read, for example, in this case, they had 8 stories to read, and they can see the whole thing about being a British Asian family. So that kind of all the themes fell into place for them. And because they have worked with King Banana and they know how good they are, so all of that fell into place, and you can apply for development funding to actually develop the visuals. Whereas the new one that I am working on, I developed some of the visuals and had the pitch because there was no book behind it and it was an original idea. In which case, I also write the script and have a package before I go in. I think it varies. They always tell you they're very happy to have early conversations with you. And they do. Like, for example, I've had very early conversations with Kyle at Milkshake. I have done early conversations with Sky when they were accepting things. But when that happens, that conversion takes longer. So you need to be able to having a strong pitch document, even if the visuals are not there, is quite important because they want to see what's the concept, does this have legs? Because for preschool especially, they like to order in 26 or 52 episodes because kids get hooked onto a show. You can't just give them, it's not like a adult where you can have 6 episodes every season, which is
Yeah.
a UK always does. High end drama is only 6 episodes, so kids want lot longer, and it's also the playtime, right? It's 7 minutes or 11 minutes, so the order is slightly bigger. So they need to know that this idea can have legs, and that's something you do when you go into the second stage of preparation. And again, this is because we got development funding. Our pitch was twofold, right? The initial pitch that I did with the BBC was, this is my idea, this is the book, are you interested? And so that pitch was more about the world, why the story, where it came from, and why am I the right person to tell this story, and why did I come to the BBC with it. So that was how that pitch was, and with some illustrations which were more photos of the family and some stats and things like that. Whereas after the development funding, we had a super professional pitch which King Banana put together, which some of it was borrowed from my pitch, which is again, why Chitra, why the story, Why is she the right person to tell it? What is this universe? Who are these people? And then completely supplemented with visuals of what this family is going to look like on screen. And then we had about 7 springboards on the page. So we showed these are the 7 stories, but we think we have a lots more stories to tell. And then 1 full script and 2 outlines. That means they know that at least for 3 episodes we've got legs, and they can see the format working across 3 episodes. So it's not like we write one and then second one is so hard to do. So they need to be able to see, okay, you can carry this format across many episodes. So we did all of that work with the development funding money. The development funding money is not very big, it's very small. It's just to pay me to write the script, for King Bernard to develop the artwork and the time that we all put into that. And then we got to do the big pitch with about probably 48 people on a Zoom call.
48 people.
Yeah, because I think this is also because this is during COVID, so everybody was dialed in, and then they take pictures. I think 20 minutes per team, so we all had slots, and we were just pitching rapidly. So that pitch, we had this pitch document really, really well written, and then King Banana also wrote a proper script for the pitch, and we divvied up the work between the 2 producers from their side and me. And BBC was very impressed that the creator was at the table, because normally producers, as I said before, buy from the publishers, and the creators, there is no
Right.
creator. The creators are the producers, and they don't involve the IP owner. In this case, I developed it, so basically I was there to pitch as well, and they were very happy. And Kate Morton really liked the script, so they said all the good things in the call itself, and we were like, yes, they've said all these good things. Let's hope this is going to go our way. Yeah, and then I think it took us, I think it was another 6 weeks, because then Christmas comes in, because we pitched early December. And then about mid-January, they gave us an order for 52 episodes.
Nice.
I don't think it's an order or a commission. I think it's the intent to commission letter. So basically saying, we are happy to give you an order for 52. Are you ready for it? So then King Banana has to go and find the animation company to work with, the distribution company, the rest of the funds, all of those kind of things needed to be done after that. And that took a whole year.
Right. So once the BBC say yes, you actually it's not yes and here's everything else you need. It's a yes, now go and find everything else you need between you and the producer, like you say.
Yeah, because they've given the order to King Banana. Now King Banana has to be able to make it happen. That means they need
Yeah.
to find a production partner, and BBC doesn't pay all of it, right? So there'll be a gap that you have to go and fill, and sometimes that can be filled with your distribution partner giving you an advance. Sometimes you need a co-production partner. In our case, we had only the distribution partner. So Cake came on board, and then Cake brought Paper Owl to the table as well. And Paper Owl having done Pablo, so they were already flying the flag for inclusivity. So for them also it was a good fit. And then we had like let's meet the in-laws meeting at Cake offices. So Paper Owl people came down from Northern Ireland. We were all there, and Cake was there, and we all got to know each other. And then they started doing budgets. Yeah, so it took a while to come to that point. I think that was a summer, and then we by that December, so whole year down, King Banana and I started doing informally some development work on the next episodes and what we need to do. The creative process, kind of, we started brainstorming that, and they were looking for head writers, and I recommended Becky, and they really liked Becky. So Becky came on board for a few sessions to have some discussions with us. And then we kicked off, I think, the first writer's room the following year. I wanted to say March. And literally, while we were in the first writer's room, is the day we signed the contracts.
Okay.
So yeah, it is a very long process. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds it, but it must be like exciting to see once you get that green light and seeing the pieces come together, the people come together and make it happen. I know we actually had one of the animators, Fayum,
Hmm.
on the show on episode 216. And so he was giving some perspective as someone working on the show from an animation standpoint. And, one of the things that came up, which is obviously baked into the show, is that idea of representation. So you've got the two brothers, but then you got this mixed family. So like on screen there's representation, but also from the perspective of the people making the show, there's representation. Like, why was it important for you to have representation behind the screen, behind the characters, as well as on screen?
That was there from the beginning. We were really clear. So, like in my original pitch and in the pitch that we did together to the BBC, we were very clear that we wanted to have both the voice actors, but also the writers come from, the animators come from as much as possible. Because one thing I realized when I was getting ready for the show was there were hardly any people I could find. I was spending ages, very unhealthy amount of time on LinkedIn finding South Asian animators, South Asian directors, and South Asian writers. And I went into every possible database to get names to see whether they will be a right fit. And I thought, if there is any reason, even if we just get one series, the legacy will be that we brought some more new people into the industry who have South Asian background, who can tell these stories, and that because from the in the book world, I was already doing a lot in terms of representation, and for me, this was quite important to do. And I didn't want to make a show, Nigel. I just wanted to write for TV, but nobody would give me an opportunity. And I thought, okay, fine, then I'll just make my own show. Because it was like
Yep.
I spoke to so many people and they were like, yeah, yeah, but I wrote sample scripts, I gave it to people, and people were like, great, they were nice to me, but they didn't necessarily want to give me an opportunity. And so I want, this is my opportunity. So I thought, I can't be like that. I have to open the door and keep the door open for people to keep going in. And that's kind of what we did. And Paper Owl, luckily, had the same ethos. So we did a recruitment call to the public where I spoke, Paper Owl spoke, Jess Shibley from BBC spoke to say that we really want representation, please apply.
Mm.
And we did like an open call, but with a like almost like a webinar thing, so that people can come and I gave them the background of the show, the heritage, my heritage, and I said I am looking to open the door for as many South Asians as possible. So do come and apply. Don't be worried whether it's the right fit for you or not. Just tell us. And I then also used to be a member of Asians in Animation, which started in America during COVID. And they did Lexi Chua, who used to run it, and she still runs it, but she no longer works for Skydance. She used to work for Skydance before. She had come down to London to do a meetup. And so I ended up going to the meetup, and there were a few people in that group who were South Asians who were from, I want to say, Southampton University or Portsmouth, wherever there's animation degree going on, big one. So some of the students were there, and I told all of them to apply, and a couple of them got in as well from that into the team. So it was all very good.
Nice. Because I mean, I'm sure you've been in these conversations in these rooms, virtual, otherwise, where people say we can't find the people, can't find them, and that's why there's not diversity here because we can't find them. But I feel what you just described is the way to find them because they are there. They are in the minority, and that is the inherent problem. But they are there. But it's about that extra effort because the quote unquote the usual routes will get the usual people, right? But it sounds like you actually that kind of put your money where your mouth is kind of situation, and you actually went and did the extra work to get the people, and you did that. So that's really commendable.
And that's kind of why Colorful Connections came about, because I was like, I can't keep doing this every time. I need to create a community where we can go and find people. So that's kind of why I set it up. And now we are now building a database behind the scenes as well, so we can actually share with people, people from different backgrounds in different parts of the thing. But we had same problem with voice acting as well, because our family is a South Indian family, so we speak Tamil, which is not a big community in the UK. And even like South India is hardly ever represented in any world stage. So even some of the biggest things are always from the north of India. So we had to take quite extra steps, and we actually had delays in recording because we couldn't find the two boys, the voice actors. And we came so close. People were like, I found it really hard, guilty, to hold everybody back, waiting for the most authentic person we could get. And finally, there was like this make or break meeting we had, and they said, "What are you thinking? Do you really, if you want to wait?" And King Banana was lovely about it. They said, "Look, yes, we know there's delays, but if that's exactly what you want, that's what we will do." And then we did one more push. So we went into, instead of going to just the casting agencies and stuff like that, we went into camel clubs and temples, posted and things in there. And then that's kind of how we found our voice actors. Two people who got it from there came to audition, and we loved them. And those two boys are absolutely amazing, but they didn't come through conventional sense. They got an agent after they auditioned with us.
Ah, okay, that's wow. So, like you say, it's like out into the actual community, and then
Yeah.
you found the people. So, there's a lesson there. Yeah, it's actually giving me some ideas. Because I mean, yeah, you mentioned organization, colorful connections that you established, and that idea of bringing together the people, so that when it does come time for that opportunity, they're more the people looking don't have to work as hard because as much as we would like to get everyone to take the steps. I imagine most people, especially if you're not from the community and don't have that same investment, that same stake in it, you're not going to take all the steps that you did. So make it easy for people. But then also, I imagine vice versa from the individuals from that community to know about the opportunities, know what it takes to take advantage of the opportunity. So that's a real gap that you're filling.
Yeah, that's kind of, hopefully that's what we want to do. A lot of people who are there now are still, some of them are looking, some of them are working, some of them are students. But it's so we started, I'm sure you got the newsletter as well. So we're starting to
Yeah,
build.
I need to come to the pitch sessions that you did, the animation pitch sessions.
Yeah, good. And I'm going to send out a new one tomorrow. So we have a session on development. But yeah, that's where I'm hoping people will come and find us or ask us, hey, do you have someone we can put on the show? And it's happened so far twice. People came to me and said, hey, I'm looking to have at least a couple of inclusive writers on my people from diverse backgrounds into my writing team. Can you post this in your group? So but on the flip side though, Nigel, I think a lot of people who want the jobs have, you're lucky when you're ready to be lucky. So you need to have samples, you need to have a website, you need to have
Mm.
your different artwork done, whatever your field is. You need to have samples, and you need to be ready. If somebody comes and says we are looking for this, and you are that person, you need to be prepared to do the thing that needs to be done. And that's something that I keep telling. I don't think everybody takes me as seriously on that, because that's the hard work, isn't it? So,
Mm. Yeah, I was recently doing a talk at a University of East London, with a group of game and animation, game design and animation students. And part of the thing I was saying to them is like that idea of getting in position, because I was saying to people like some of the things that have happened to me and as a team, my Mad have happened because we're doing a thing, and where we can be seen to be doing a thing, and we're ready for certain things, and when the opportunity comes we can take it. And but then on the flip side, and this is why I do need to come to the animation pitch, I also gave them the example of where I haven't been in position where, like with animation, because that's something that we had said from the beginning but never actually did anything because I didn't know, and I didn't take the steps, and it's only recently I'm trying to get my head around it. So there have no doubt been opportunities that might have come up had I been in the position but haven't. So that's like learning I need to do. So I think it is important to like prepare to do the thing that you say you want to do. I think that's an important lesson.
Yeah, I think sometimes if you're doing lots of, like if you have a day job and you want to go to the next thing, it is hard. It is super hard to be getting ready for that next thing while also keeping everything, juggling on one side.
Yeah, juggling is my problem.
Yeah, and you're running a company, you're doing,
Yeah.
all of other things as well, and branching into a new thing is completely, it's a lot of work. But I always feel like if it's going to take 3 years, then I better start now because
Mm.
every time 2 years down the line, it's still going to take 3 years, and you get so might as well start now. So I always like to start a little bit, and I normally start with research. So I normally read about it. So I went, and when I wanted to do Nikhil and Jay and I started getting some bites, I went and read a book on producing animation. I went and read a book on writing for animation. I went and read a book on how to develop a new show. So that reading is my background stuff. And that helped because when I was then talking to somebody like Lottie from King Banana or from the producers, for example, one of the questions BBC asked me in the very first meeting, they thought I hadn't done my homework. So they asked me, so, do you think you want to write all the 52 episodes, or are you willing to set up a writing room, and how do you want to do it? They thought I was going to say, I am the author, I'll only write. I'm like, oh, no, of course not. I know you have to have a writer's room, and I also know that I would like to bring people from British and Asian dual heritage to come and write and tell their stories with this. So, of course, that's how it needs to be done. And they were like, okay. That sounds like a sensible option that we can proceed with. She's not
Yeah,
going
yeah.
to scream as soon as we say other people are going to write her show. So I think I was able to understand the lingo. I was able to understand what they meant by the various questions they were asking. So that was all very helpful to go even into that meeting with a lot of prep and understanding budget,
Yes.
understanding
Yeah.
difference between 2D and 3D and all of that kind of stuff. So I'm sure I'm sure the meeting that we're going to have that I'm arranging for November will be quite useful because a very experienced producer is going to come and talk about how to develop a show for animation, so and how to pitch. So that'll be useful to everybody, I think.
Yeah, no, I imagine, and you're kind of like you're doing my talk because I also said to this group about like learning the language,
Yeah.
because you'll find like the people on the other side of the table from you, they obviously they know, and they're trying to see like what do you know, do you understand what you're asking, what you're here for. And had you had said, I'm going to do all the I'm going to write it because I wrote the book, so I'm going to do all the things myself, that's like that would be a red flag, and because you don't understand the language and what they're trying to get at, but because you know that you can past that barrier. So yeah, that's really good. Okay, and then speaking of education, because you work in schools, you talk in schools, you do sessions with like you're on the younger end of education. We recently, I think our last interview episode was with Michael Nakan from Comics It. So it's about like a new comics app aimed at children, and he's very concerned with like talking storytelling, but also the declining rates of reading for pleasure among UK children. So, as someone who regularly visits schools, what are you observing on that end?
I think children are reading, but there are not enough tools and there's not enough time in the world to do a lot of the things, right? So it's multifaceted because just blaming children who are not reading I don't think is quite helpful because one, there are not enough libraries in all the schools, right? So they don't have the right kind of books. If they only have banded readers and phonics books, the kids are not going to be interested, right? So,
Mm,
or only the rich and privileged children who can go to a bookshop, who can have books at home, are going to be able to read quite a lot, and others don't. So that's one aspect of it. Second, the teachers have been run down so much that they don't have time to do
Mm.
reading for pleasure or reading in schools. So they don't have story times anymore. They don't actually sit down and read a book with the kids. And they don't communicate their love for reading, right? Because they don't have time. They are running around doing unnecessary paperwork most of the time. Parents, especially the last 10 years, are doing multiple jobs to make ends meet. The majority of them, right? Leave the top 10% out. Everybody else is struggling. And they don't they don't always read to the kids. Like even 10-year-olds can be read to. Nobody's stopping them from reading to 10-year-olds. Secondly, they are not demonstrating, they are not setting an example in reading. Adults reading has also gone down heavily, so they don't have time to do that, and therefore the children don't, like, children won't do what I tell them to do. They will
No,
do
they
what
do what you
they
do.
see me doing, right?
Yeah, yeah.
A reading family will always be reading, and a parents, they don't have the time to read. They have so many other 100 things to worry about. Then the kids are picking up on the stress, and they're not picking up on the reading.
Mm.
On top of all that, it is true that the distraction of TV or streamers or YouTube is there, especially on the upper end. So 9, 10, 11 year olds are like, they're often frequently asked question to me is, what do you play? Do you play games? Do you go on this and this? And character examples will come from games. If I ask them to write a plot, it will be related to games. So they are in that world. Doesn't mean it's not good for them. It's everything, like my grandmother used to say, everything in moderation is good. Anything out of moderation is bad. Like even reading 24 hours is bad, because you'll hurt your eyes, you'll hurt your brain. So you need a little bit of everything, and that balance is probably out of sync a lot more. And one last thing I will say is, if say 30% of the class, if you take England as a class, then 30% of the class is not white, but only 5% of the books are not white. So if the kids are not hooking up to the stories, if the kids don't feel like it's connecting with them, then they're not going to be picking up those books. And they're also publishing an unhealthy amount of celebrity books. Problem with that is it's not very good. So
No,
if
it's not
you,
deep
yeah, if
reading.
you want to feed them junk food and then expect them to be healthy or want to love food, they're not going to turn into food critics, right? They're not going to be able to enjoy the food and go, oh, this had an exact amount of cumin and pepper in this. They won't know that difference. They've just been eating junk food. So I think it's all of this in different combinations depending on your postcode lottery, right? Depending on where you live. And the less privileged boroughs and cities and towns have got more of those problems, especially the rundown libraries, no librarian in the libraries, all of those huge problems in getting any kind of reading for pleasure. So anywhere they read is great. I love children reading comic books. I grew up on comic books. I've read awful lot of Tintins and Asterix and
Oh, yeah.
Archie, and and Indian comics. India has a huge comics heritage, and we all grew up on comics. And my nephews are huge fans of Bunny versus Monkey,
Mm.
Pablo and Splash, and all of that kind of stuff. And it's great. And I buy them Phoenix. So they've been on a lifelong subscription of Phoenix now, and they love it, and they learned lots of things from it. They learned lots of big words from it, and as long as they're in a narrative storytelling world, they learn all of those things that they need to do.
And it's good that we brought up comics as well, and just the things that are engaging them and getting them to build that habit. But also, like you say, like the adults just time and attention is is worrying for everyone. So it's all about setting that example. So yeah, that makes sense. A lot of work to do. And but then, like, speaking of stories for yourself, and looking at yourself as the protagonist of your own story, I feel like any good protagonist has some kind of like goal, vision of success. From where you are now, especially, you described your work on Nikhil and Jay and the work you're doing around schools. Like, what does success look like to you? Like, what does that vision look like to you, and are you there yet?
Oh, you're never there yet. If you're satisfied where you are, then I don't think I'll ever be content with my writing. I'll always be wanting to do more. Success for me at this point in time is to get the second show up and running. I've just got somebody bought an option on my show. So I'm hoping that'll get pitched and sold at some point. So that's on the TV side. And on the book side, I have set myself a target of writing something for older children, so 9 to 12s. So that's my 2026. I wrote one which didn't sell, so which was historical. So I want to write something contemporary that my nephews will be proud of reading and want to read and will want to recommend to their friends. So that's on the book side. Yeah, so that's kind of I'm always setting myself new goals to cross so that I have something interesting when I come to my desk every day.
Nice. Yeah, it sounds like a busy 2026 for you. So, all right, with that, we're going to get into our guest advice. In each interview, we like to ask our guests to give some advice for aspiring creative professionals. So we've been talking writing and animation. So, Chitra, what advice do you have for others listening who may want to tell their stories in some form and put them out into the world?
I would say find a community, but also understand the industry in which you are in and learn about what's going on. For example, I would subscribe to Kids Screen Magazine. I'm a nerd, so I have Google alerts for animation, kids animation shows. So anytime, anywhere in the world, somebody mentions kids animation show, Google sends it to me, and I go through the headline and go through the news article. So I always want to understand the industry in which I am in. So that's an important way to know where you are so you can map out where you want to go.
Yeah, that's good advice. Actually, I'm going to do that Google alert thing. That's a good bit of advice. Let me make a note of that. Thank you very much. So, listeners, let us know what you think about like the interview and the journey, especially if you're trying to do a similar thing. Hopefully, you take that tip. That is a really good tip. So, make a note of that. And yeah, connect with us at studio77 at mymatter.com. Before we wrap up for the episode, we'll end with the bonus round.
This is the part where we throw in some follow-up questions or random questions that didn't quite fit anywhere else. So I have a couple of questions for you. So you said you never miss a deadline. How do you manage your schedule, and do you ever procrastinate?
Oh, if I have to write something and turn it over in X number of days, then I always work backwards and give myself time to revise and redo and all of that kind of stuff. I'm a planner. I was also a program manager by profession, so I'm always very good with time. I don't procrastinate in the sense like if I have a deadline, it's like a cloud over my head. I'm like, I need to finish, I need to finish, I need to finish. But I set myself achievable targets. For example, children's books are word counts, right? So my chapter books are 10,000 words long. So, and they're broken down into, say, 15 chapters. Then I'll say, I'm going to write one chapter every alternate day. So that means I know I need 30 days to write it. Then that means I know I need another 3 weeks to edit it. So I'll tell my editor I want 2 months. So that'll give me enough buffer to do it. And because I write only alternate days on that particular project, then I also have a distance from it whenever I come back. So I write on Monday, then when I go back on Wednesday, I know that I can read it and I can see what's wrong with it and edit it and then write the Wednesday's work. So I structure myself, I'll give myself those little smaller deadlines so that it doesn't feel like this whole thing has to be done.
Okay, that's interesting, like the idea of like working backwards as well. And then as well, because you were talking about reading and obviously it being a struggle for families to find time to read to their kids, and children are like not getting much reading time in because of that's like one of the factors. So how do you set aside time for yourself to read, and what do you read?
Well, I read quite widely. I used to read a lot of children's books. So whatever I want to write, I will also read. Whenever I get into a new age group, then I'll read as much as possible. But for as a grown up, I like to read crime, and I like to watch crime as well. So that's I need to read something which is not my work, so that I don't get distracted into actually trying to figure out how they've written it and start breaking it down. So I need to read something which is away from my normal work. So I read crime for pleasure, and I read children's books for work.
Do you have any recommendations? I like crime. I don't like doing crime, just to clarify.
There is, it depends on what kind of crime you like.
I have an eclectic taste, so.
Wow. I have read crime all my life, right from Agatha Christie to then Sue Grafton and Mary Higgins Clark and all of those books. I finished the entire alphabet series and everything. And I used to read Michael Connelly, John Grisham, all of those things. Nowadays, I read a lot more cozy crime. I've been reading Jonathan Whitelaw, who has written a murder set in Lake District, and quite different, like the amateur stuff. And then I've been going back to Agatha Christie to read some of the bits that I've not read before. And I read Sophie Hannah, who is being authorized by the Agatha Christie Foundation to write Hercule Poirot books. So I read her. So yeah, I've stopped reading the gory ones, the serial killer who tortures women kind of thing. So I've stopped doing those. I'm reading more domestic and amateur detective stuff because that's what I find in TV also I like.
Right, I've taken some notes there for myself. But lastly, where can people find you online?
I am, my website is chitrasoundar.com, and I'm on Instagram at Chitra Soundar and YouTube Chitra Soundar. I'm not on Twitter anymore because there's no Twitter anymore. There's only X.
Yeah, no, yeah, it is quite bleak actually.
Honestly, Twitter is like, or X is really showcasing the dead internet theory very well.
I as soon as went into private hands, I felt like before we were all in a town square shouting at each other, which was fine, and then we were in somebody else's front lawn shouting.
Yeah, getting
That
shouted at.
doesn't work for me anymore.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. That was amazing to have this conversation.
No, appreciate you like spending the time and giving that perspective. So hopefully listeners enjoyed that. And if you did, make sure you subscribe to the Story X Story podcast so you don't miss a future episode, all the past ones as well. You can go backwards in time as well. You can give us a 5-star rating and review too, because that helps us reach new listeners and fans of story discussions. We are story creators ourselves, and you can check out our manga universe online. Including the latest title, Origins Against All Odds, which features Tazzii's character in the Maya Mada universe. And don't forget to join our Discord as well, connect with us in between episodes, get involved in projects like the Do I Look Like a Gamer representation campaign. We have one in-person event left for the year, one online event left for the year, and you can get involved in both of them as we wrap up another year of pushing for inclusion and diversity in the video games industry. But we'll be back next year as well. So we've got more plans in store. You'll be part of this year's events, part of next year's campaign as well. Looklikeagamer.com to find out more details there. As for the podcast, we release new episodes on Thursdays that include creator interviews, video game discussions, and deep dives into stories across pop culture. You can always give us a shout directly. Our email address is studio77@myamada.com, and our website with links to subscribe is myamada.com/storyxstory. So thank you for tuning in, and until next time, stay safe and remember that anything out of moderation is bad, except this podcast, and you've got 231 episodes to prove me wrong. Take care, everyone.